Hello, and welcome to Awaken, where we share insights to the connection between science and spirituality for self discovery, joy, and freedom. I am your host and spiritual coach, Stephanie Rouch, and I am so thrilled to be here today with Marta Napoleone Mazzoni. Marta is many things. She is a dynamic, multidimensional person, and right now, has the titles of intuitive life coach, grief recovery specialist, play facilitator, creative muse, author, motivational speaker, and more. So thank you so much for being here, Marta. Tell us a little more about you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me on. This is such an honor. I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, I mean, a little bit about me is I can kind of sum it up my work in a bigger context of leading individuals to rediscover their joy, their play, their purpose, and their authentic selves and soul alignment after loss. Like, really, this is the perfect conference for me to be on because it's really coming alive again after loss and embracing the beauty of life and how we live, our fullest expressions of that. So all of my titles kind of fall under that main context.
Bridging the two worlds.
Bridging the worlds.
Yes. Well, I'm really curious then with this idea of awakening. If you're willing to share a little bit more of your personal connection to why awakening is so important to your life, where you've now shared it broadly with others.
Yeah, it's important to me on so many. That's such a wonderful question and a great way to put it. It is vital to me and important to me because my sister died 4 years ago from a double hit B cell lymphoma. And that started a ball rolling, that was really rolling before she died and before she got sick. But I really practice what I preach, and being awakened to me is living a full life. And in doing that, I honor her. And
Mm.
in doing that, I honor my ancestors and I honor those that have come before me. And a big part of me at the same time I went sober, like I got sober and gave up alcohol. And I realized I had such an awareness around how much I was distracting, how much I was numbing out, how much healing I really didn't want to look at,
Mm.
and how I was kind of coasting
Mhm.
through my life and not fully appreciating the relationships in my life, not fully being in the present moment, not fully, living this life that is both joyful and sorrowful,
Mm.
and holding them both.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's important to me to become awakened, to reanimate.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. And we'll dive a little bit more into it. And I just want to emphasize and appreciate your perspective on how with a loss like that, it's really common for to feel like, well, how could I go on? And you're stressing like, oh, I'm honoring her, I'm honoring my ancestors by living fully. And that I think in and of itself offers an invitation to anyone who's experienced loss to consider that you you can open up to living really beautifully and with adventure and with joy, even with this sorrow, and your life is a testament to that. So I'm really inspired by how you go about that and how you're able to integrate in the the honoring of your sister. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I really feel that. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, if I ever lose my way or like my ego kind of like smacks me upside the head as it does, right? Or you get like too busy, and it comes back to that. It
Mhm.
really does. At the heart of everything, it comes back to wanting to live this full life, and not in a way where there's a scarcity mindset or a mindset of lack.
Mm.
It's a way to really embrace my own power, my own self trust, my own self love, so that I can live this full life without, the haze of everything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So for people who right away are probably like very moved and touched by this and can relate with their own loss and who may wonder like when diving into spirituality and when especially meditation and wanting to experience peace, there can be maybe a confusion that that there's a bypass that's possible or that there's a way to avoid pain and you're able to show through your life and through your teachings how you can integrate grief and loss into your experience and so can you share how you do that, how grief and loss don't have to be avoided for spiritual evolution, but how they can be integrated?
Absolutely. Um, I think one of the most poignant things that I've learned is that pain doesn't get smaller.
Mm,
It doesn't. Pain doesn't go away. It doesn't get smaller. I feel as though as we heal and as we expand our consciousness and shift our frequency and our energies and learn and grow, our capacity to hold it gets bigger.
mhm,
And I think and I know for myself, in the deep throes of the sorrow of grief, it can feel so overwhelming and so heartbreaking. And the new normal, I call it, right? It's like the new normal. Everything feels like it's the multiverse. It's like, what is this? Like, what, how? How do I live with this? How do I do this? How do I move on from this? And the truth is, you don't move on,
mm,
you walk with it.
mm,
And it truly is, I believe in relationships. Like, I am an advocate for working on relationships, for like, that is kind of the avenue of that, having that connection with relationships. And your relationship with grief is just another relationship.
mm,
It really is. It's like your relationship with money, your relationship with your sister, your relationship with caffeine, you're like, it all applies. And when it comes to the process of grieving and living and walking with it, you would be so surprised to know the capacity that you have.
mm.
Like, you create more space within yourself. We always say like that there's a backpack, and when you're born, you have an empty backpack.
Okay.
And as you walk through life, you keep putting rocks in the backpack,
Mhm.
but you don't ever take them out.
Yeah.
And so one day there's going to be the pea-sized rock
Mhm.
that you put in the backpack, and it's going to knock you over.
Mm,
And really, it's this process of understanding and learning the language of grief
mm,
and expanding that consciousness within yourself, that you're able to remove those rocks, and it expands your capacity to walk with pain, to move with grief, and to live your life abundantly.
mm, mm. For those who this may be the first time they're hearing anything like this, or the first time their heart is open to it, and they're like a little bit scared about the idea of feeling it and integrating it,
Terrifying.
right? Can you share some of the evidence that you've really dove into and the experience with your clients of what's on the other side when
Oh.
You do feel it.
Oh man, for anyone listening to this. So I host something. I host many things, but one of the things I'm most proudest of is something called the Wild Soul Sanctuary, and it is literally a space specifically for women. But I'm actually thinking about hosting one for men and eventually co-mingling them, um, where you can be seen and you can be heard.
Mm,
And for anybody that is watching this, that is listening to this, and that is like, mm-mm, that is not, no. There is such beautiful transformation through the power of vulnerability,
mm,
just beautiful transformation and such divine connection to your soul when you allow your grief to be witnessed, you allow your true self to be witnessed. And through that and through these containers, you really connect with other people and you see that you don't have to be afraid of your emotions
mm,
and you can let yourself be seen by others.
mhm,
And then you truly understand that we are all so similar. On a fundamental level, like as a human being, we are all here to connect. We
mm,
are all here to love. Like we are all here to be understood. And once you hear the stories, like the power of storytelling, you start to notice that these situations that others are in just allow you to see your life in a different perspective, and you feel not so alone. You feel not so isolated that you are on your own island, right? Because we've all felt that. Like there are times in our lives where we are like, I am on my own island. Nobody understands this.
mhm,
No one's going to get this.
mhm,
And there's just like this beautiful connection that happens in
mhm,
that. So I would tell people not to be afraid. And I just did a post about it 2 days ago. I don't know when this airs. It was all about how I myself didn't want to go into like a group container or a program or anything like that. I was resisting it.
mhm.
And it is truly through the discomfort and stepping into the discomfort that I found so much transformation and so much healing and so much connection. It was beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's so true that I think it's a very common emotion to feel like I am the only person experiencing this. And other people kind of have it together. No one's life is as messy as mine. No one's internal world is as messy as mine. And then we start to connect and see both the pain points, but then also the bright spots of like, oh, this brightness in me, this vibrance in me, I see it in you. Or maybe I see it in you first and you reflect it back in me. So there's this like, is that happening at your group things too?
Oh my God. Yes. You
Mhm.
hit the nail on the head. I mean, it truly is. It allows you to put aside your judgments.
Mm,
And I think judgments are one of the things that just gives us so much pain.
yeah.
Like, it takes up space in our mind, and that equals pain, right? Like it's the things we think about and obsess about. And it really just allows you to see that others are in pain.
Hmm.
Like everyone is in pain, in some sort of pain.
Hmm.
And through that, like through that sharing of vulnerability, we then come to like it's kind of like the feeling of when you have a really good cry,
Yeah.
like those really good ones, like you just have like you break open and then afterward you feel a sense of peace. You feel that connection to the divine. Like you feel complete because you opened.
Mm.
You allowed yourself to break open. You allowed the emotion to rise to the surface.
Mhm.
And after that, there's joy. Like there is gratitude. Like there is a process in these containers where it is not just sorrow. It is not just all sorrow. It's
Mhm.
both. It's both. Like after that comes so much joy and so much gratitude and so much wholeness, like a feeling of being full, which I think truly is at the heart of every human is how do I feel full?
Mm.
Yeah.
So some ways here are like that you're saying are lean in and feel
Lean
it
in,
and share it and
share it,
be open.
ask for help.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's like one of the biggest things we I talk about in all of my programs. It's like there's such strength, like inner resilience in being able to ask for help.
Hmm.
And that asking for help doesn't always look like what you think it looks like.
Yeah.
It literally is calling a friend and being like, "Hey, I'm having a bad day. Can you just listen? I'm not really um looking for any advice or anything like that, but I really just need to talk about some things that are on my heart."
Hmm.
Right? Or asking someone specifically like to take a burden off of it, or it's hiring a coach, it's going to a yoga class. Like all of these are versions of asking for help. And when we view it through the viewpoint of this is something that is really hard to do. Like it's really hard to do. It takes a lot of power. It takes a lot to do that. But oftentimes we don't see it as something that's really powerful. We see it as something that's like, I don't want to appear weak. And it's like, nah, no. Mm-mm. Imagine the last time you tried to ask for help and then,
Hmm.
and then view it through that lens is a really beautiful thing.
It's this concept of receiving too that is so it's so vulnerable to receive. And then in relationships, it's both like, okay, you can see me, but now I have control because you're giving to me. So there, while it's so nourishing, there's like these ego parts of us to move past.
So much. Yeah, the ideas of giving and receiving are such huge frequencies and codes to learn in our life. And I literally my word for last year was receive. That
Yeah.
was my word for last year because I realized that I couldn't in a lot of aspects of my life receive. I One thing that really like I'm eternally proud of for myself is opening my heart again after loss, because one of the biggest fears is that you're going to get hurt. One of
Mm.
the biggest fears is the anticipatory grief of, my parents aging and them dying, or my boyfriend leaving me, or my dog dying. And so what ends up happening is we close the doors
Hmm.
for fear of what's coming,
Hmm.
for fear of loving too much and being hurt.
Hmm.
And grief is love. It is the act of praise. It is the act of love. And it's this idea of receiving that I realized that I wasn't fully allowing
Hmm.
the love. And it looked different ways. It looked like me trying to micromanage a trip and plan all the things, you know what I mean? And I remember I went on a girls trip and I felt so taken care of
Hmm.
and so tended to. I didn't have to do anything. They were like, "You don't have to do anything. We're just going to make all the plans." And I was like, "Wow, years ago I would have hated this." But I just allowed myself to receive, and it was such a beautiful thing. And what it ended up doing is it gave the gift for someone else. It's an act of love. to be able to do that. So it's this balance of giving and receiving. It's a
Mm.
crazy beautiful thing.
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. So there's so much richness that you've talked about in these what seem like paradoxical forces, but are like two sides of the same coin, where science and spirituality obviously is one that we connected on right away. And then with grief and loss, while there could be many paradoxes, one seems to be like lightness and play that you work with quite a bit with adults, teaching adults how to play. And I'm curious from your perspective, like how did you discover that that was a way to help people and how do you do it?
Oh, oh my God. How much time do we have? Um, my God, I could
Last
be here
question is
we
the
could hang all day. No, I love it. Um, it truly was something on, and it really is a journey.
Mhm.
Like coming back to yourself after grief, like this is my jam. I love it because it is something that I have walked. And I realized through one of my transitions that I was taking life so seriously. I was walking on eggshells. I was closing myself off, like I said, to receiving. I was just serious,
Mm.
cautious, risk adverse, studying, spending all of my time studying like my life depended on it. I was living in like a place of lack for fearing for the next shoe to drop. And I know a lot of people live there. And my sister actually came to me and I was in a visualization with her
Mhm.
and she came to me and she just kept repeating the same phrase: play more, play more, play more, play more, play more, play more. And then everything, you know how this goes. So, like, everything started to not yell at me, but like show me this. Be like, I would pull cards, they would say play. I would see billboards, they would say play. Like all of these things. Friends would come up to me and be like, "Hey, your sister came to me and she told me to tell you to play more." Like I'm like, "Oh my God, Neen." Um, and and it was a part of myself that I lost.
Mm.
Going sober, my sister dying, like all of these losses that what really happens is you lose who you are.
Mhm.
And my work is really the process of coming back to who you are from a soul aligned place. And I am a playful person.
Oh
And
yeah.
I am like play embodied. And I cut that part out of me.
Yeah.
And I had to remember, I had to allow myself that I deserved to play. I'm even getting misty thinking about it because I think a big thing that happens is this survivor's guilt that we have.
Mhm.
And it's like, I don't deserve that. Or what right do I have to feel pleasure? Right? What right do I have to feel joy? What right do I have to play?
Mm.
And truly, that's really what we're here to do. We are here to create our lives in abundance and play and honor and gratitude. And I it's one of the joys and the honors of my life that I can watch. There is something so magical to me to watch my clients' eyes come alive again. There is nothing better. Like to watch them, like to see literally their inner child come through their eyes.
Yeah.
And it awakens me. It sends me like electricity through my system because I know they feel it.
Mhm.
And I know they're in it. And that's like such an integral part of who we are as humans, like being curious, being awe-inspired, being like playful is everything. It really is. And I love it. And I use like techniques that I've learned along the way. Like I love improv. I use like improv games in my coaching and a lot of exercises to shift the energetics of the room. And it's lovely. It's great. Play
So
more.
play more. I was gonna ask, what's one takeaway message as the last question, but I think we got it. Play more. From me and
Yeah.
yourself. So how can people stay in touch with you and engage in these types of workshops that you're talking about? And like I imagine there are some that are like, oh my gosh, give me some of what you've got.
Yeah. Well, the way that I have my programs and my coaching set up, it's really a choose your own adventure type of things because the grief journey is literally like, where am I right now? I feel stuck and I'm feeling really creative and I need to express myself through my creativity and blah, blah, blah. I have different programs that are for every part of your journey. And you can find me on Instagram at Marta's on the Move or martaonthemove.com. And yeah, that's it. Just reach out and say hello.
We'll make sure to include those links. And Marta, I am so grateful for your time today and for the work that you're putting out, the play that you're putting out into the world that's making ripples to help people remember to come alive and live their life. So thank you for being you.
Thank you for being you. This was such an honor and a joy to be on.
Thank you for tuning in to this amazing interview as part of our Awaken series. I hope you found value. Check out the rest of the interviews on Awaken. Keep tuning in and please subscribe to Paradigm Expansions to stay in touch, where we are doing more events like this. And we are all about dropping in to your heart, to your true self, to really, truly love your life. Thank you for joining. See you on the next video.